Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay Will. So how can a phone that's 3 years old still beat out several phones that are new to the market? Well, Apple has managed to do this with several of their flagship devices, and the iPhone 6s is no exception. 3 years, iPhone 6s. Now in this video I want to start with design. The design of this phone is definitely nothing impressive, but the way it feels in hand, the metal body, the setup, small, compact, it's a good look. I mean, there's phones out there that don't feel as premium as this, and they actually cost a heck of a lot more. Now, granted, they are new to the market, but this phone, remember, is 3 years old officially, and it still has some features that people want in a phone that are now taken away even from an Apple device, which is the headphone jack. I think that's something important. The hardware on here is rounded, slippery, looks a little dated with the antenna lines, but you know what? It still works. And it looks and feels pretty good to be a 3-year-old device. Now on the front here, you get just this very small, and I hate to say small, but at this point in the game, people think that a 4.7-inch screen is small. I personally like a small device every now and then when I'm traveling. I think it's the best way to go. And this does have a 4.7-inch display. It's like 750 by some crazy number, which is pretty much equates to a 720p display. However, it's a good looking display. I mean, with the way Apple's setup is, it's just icons, and then you really can't tell that big of a difference when you're watching videos and things like that. So this isn't a phone that you're looking for high quality video footage, but it's a great looking display for what it is. And I think that's why people still would flock to this, because of the size of the phone equated to the display. It's actually pretty cool. Now, battery life on this phone is definitely not the best, and so I have several battery cases for this phone. And that's just the way I use it. I don't normally put it in a battery case unless I'm traveling around the house. I'll just throw it back on the charger if it goes down. But I can definitely make it through a full day and a half or so. But as far as screen on time, it's not a lot. But again, with these phones, you just have icons, and Apple's standby time, the way their ecosystem is put together, it gives great battery life. So I can make it through a day, day and a half, but the screen on time might be 2 hours or 3 hours. Or something like that. But going almost 2 days without charging is important. And another thing is, I do a lot of music with this phone right here. So the battery life for me is that 3 hours with screen on time is definitely me looking at emails and responding to messages and texts and stuff like that. But I normally have the screen off when I listen to music, so I don't know how much that impacts the battery, but I can listen to music on this thing all day. Now, performance is something that people might laugh at with this phone because it only has 2 gigs of RAM, but it still performs better than phones that are brand new to the market with 2 gigs of RAM. Yes, I'm talking about Android phones. There are plenty of Android phones out there. Because Android is so fragmented, it needs more than 2 gigs of RAM depending on which phone it is. So if it's a stock Android phone, then no, this phone doesn't really outperform it that much. But if it's phones with overlays and skins with 2 gigs of RAM, yes, this phone is going to seem like a champ, and it's blowing it away. And 2 gigs of RAM in this phone is more than enough. Even Apple's current phones are just now reaching 3 and 4 gigs of RAM. Because honestly, the way Apple does their system setup, it doesn't really need it. So I bet if the current iPhones come out with 2 gigs of RAM, Apple's going to find a way to get it to run so smooth that we won't even be able to tell. And so 2 gigs of RAM with performance in this phone, coupled with the processor, it's actually fine. I don't have any hiccups. Well, back up. When I first did the setup, when I was changing things around, yes, it was a little laggy and slow, and every now and then when I'm trying to open up something, it might lag a little bit, but it's not like Android lag. It's more of a speck of a delay, and then the system goes right back into turbo, and the phone is great. Performance is still outperforming a lot of phones on the market today, unfortunately. Now, where this phone does shine over several phones on the market, and I'm not talking about flagships, all the flagships. I'm just saying in general, this phone is still a worthy contender based on this camera footage. These cameras on this phone are fantastic. Still, even though this phone is 3 years old, it's still fantastic. Photos come out great. Video footage is sweet. I mean, you could definitely use this for a YouTube channel. I know people that actually use their iPhone. They'll buy, like, shout out to TK. Sometimes he records with an iPhone SE on his YouTube channel. That's just fantastic. I mean, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And I think that a lot of people can use an iPhone 6s or below, an iPhone 6, an iPhone SE. Any of those phones will definitely run smooth for recording footage on your YouTube channel. This is another one. Cameras on here, really good. Now, while the front camera is not that impressive, and it's very difficult to get if it's not a U11 or a U11 Plus, a U12 Plus, or just any of the HTC front cameras on their latest devices, there's not a lot of phones. Oh, and Sony. There's not a lot of phones that have good front cameras. The Mi A2 has a good front camera. Some of the Xiaomi devices have great front cameras, but it's very rare that you can get a complete package, front and rear front cameras. And even on the current iPhone, the iPhone X, it doesn't have the best front camera. And that falls in line with the LG line too. They have pretty good rear cameras and great rear cameras, but the front cameras are still lacking a little bit. But cameras overall, I like it. Now, one of the main reasons I could recommend this phone still to people is software updates. This is where Apple is winning the race, and Android probably won't ever catch up. Android phones come out and they guarantee you, oh, we'll give you 2 years possibly. Sometimes a year, sometimes within the first couple of months it's fallen off, you've never heard from again. This phone, again, being 3 years old, I'm on the latest operating system from Apple, and it's going to get the latest operating system from Apple. And iOS 12 is sure to please. I can't wait to do Hangouts, not Hangouts, but FaceTime with a bunch of different people. That's going to be a lot of fun. And the integration with iOS and High Sierra, or Apple's Mac computers and things like that, and their iPads, it just works, man. It's just a flawless system. And this is why I think a lot of people might stay with Apple or flock to Apple after using Android for a while. Now, I am pro Android. We have a few iPhones around here, but I still think that overall I'm going to go with Android for my day-to-day usage, because there are some things that I just can't do on Apple. But when it comes to uniformity, locking down a way to work, Apple's winning. Android is just not there. It's just not doing it yet. And that is why I have all Apple computers and iPads and some phones, even though the phones don't get a lot of use, much like my Android phones. However, the way Apple does it, and I've said this in a million Apple videos that I've done, people say I'm an Apple fanboy when I'm recording an Apple video. That's just how it goes, whatever. But you can't deny FaceTime, iMessenger. I can put my phone down and pick up where I left off on my iMac or my MacBook Pro, or even my iPad, with just flawless and seamless integration. It is unreal. My phone rings here, it rings on all of my devices if I wanted to. I can have my phone upstairs in the closet, and as long as my iPad, and I've done this, like I'll leave this phone, because I don't carry this phone everywhere. Most cases it's up here on the desk, or sitting on my bedstand, my nightstand, and my iPad is downstairs, and someone calls this phone number, it'll ring on the iPad, and I just answer it, and my phone's way up here. That type of integration is fantastic. That's why at this point, if people want an iPhone, they're one of the rare. This is one of the rare situations where the phone is going to continue to get updated for years to come, and it's going to perform well. And I know Apple got caught in the news about cheating, slowing down people's phones and things like that. I don't personally have that experience, so I can't really speak on that, but I'm not saying that it's okay. So, because they started giving away free replacement batteries and things like that. I haven't been through any of that. But what I will tell you is, if you want a trusted brand, or a trusted, a trusted experience, I don't know why I said brand, a trusted experience, iOS is the way to go. With Android, you won't get the consistency if you have multiple devices within the Android ecosystem. Even if I have a Samsung phone and a Samsung tablet, it still isn't the best experience. Now, LG tablet and LG phone, that's a little bit better experience, because I have like my 360 camera from LG. I have a ton of things that they actually sync up pretty well, but definitely not as smooth as iOS. So this 3-year-old phone is hot. It's still hot, and I would definitely recommend it. So at this point in the game, I'm still waiting for Android to do something like iMessenger, like FaceTime, that's going to bring them to the next level. Because you can release a ton of phones. You can push out all these Android phones, but some of them, and most of them, still don't work better than a 3-year-old iPhone. It's your man, Jay Will. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.